Welcome to the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Prepcast, where we guide you through everything you need to know for your certification exam. Whether you're just starting or looking to refine your knowledge, this course will set you up for success. Brought to you by baremetalcyber.com. Let's get started. When learning AWS, it can feel like there is an endless amount of information to absorb. Fortunately, AWS provides an extensive set of resources to guide customers in understanding services, solving problems, and preparing for certifications. These resources are available to everyone and are designed to support both beginners and experienced professionals. For the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam, knowing where to find information is almost as important as knowing the information itself. In real-world practice, these resources are essential for troubleshooting issues, following best practices, and staying current with AWS's constant pace of innovation. The AWS documentation portal is the starting point for most learners. Every AWS service has its own documentation section, which includes overviews, user guides, API references, and tutorials. This makes it the most comprehensive and authoritative source of information about AWS. For example, if you want to learn how to create an S3 bucket, the documentation provides step-by-step instructions, along with details about features like versioning and lifecycle policies. For the exam, remember that the documentation portal is the official place to find accurate and detailed information about AWS services. FAQs, or Frequently Asked Questions, are another resource offered by AWS. Each service has an FAQ page that summarizes common queries, such as pricing models, use cases, or security features. These pages are less technical than full documentation and are easier to read quickly. For example, the EC2 FAQ explains how pricing works for on-demand, reserved, and spot instances in simple language. For exam preparation, FAQs are especially helpful for reviewing key concepts without getting lost in technical detail. They serve as a shortcut for reinforcing essential knowledge. White papers are longer, in-depth documents that provide guidance on best practices, strategies, and principles. AWS white papers are widely respected in the industry because they are authored by AWS experts and focus on applying services in real-world scenarios. For example, AWS has white papers on security, cost optimization, and disaster recovery. These documents explain not just how services work, but why they should be used in certain ways. For exam purposes, you don't need to memorize them, but knowing their value helps you understand where to look for strategic insights beyond simple how-to guides. The AWS Well-Architected White Papers are a specific set of resources tied to the Well-Architected Framework. They explain the 6 pillars: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability in detail. Each white paper offers examples and recommendations to improve workloads. For exam preparation, these white papers reinforce why the well-architected framework exists and how it applies in practice. In the real world, they provide blueprints for designing systems that are efficient, secure, and resilient. AWS also provides best practice guides, which focus on individual services or use cases. For example, there may be a best practice guide for configuring IAM policies or setting up VPC networking. These guides are concise and actionable, making them perfect for learning how to do things correctly from the start. Using them helps organizations avoid common mistakes and align with AWS recommendations. For the exam, knowing that best practice guides exist can help you identify the right way to approach specific scenarios. Reference architectures are another valuable resource. These are visual diagrams and explanations of how AWS services can be combined to solve common problems. For example, AWS might publish a reference architecture for a highly available web application using EC2, ELB, and RDS. These diagrams make it easy to see how pieces fit together, which is especially helpful for beginners. On the exam, you may encounter scenario questions that resemble reference architectures, so being familiar with these resources will help you visualize correct answers. The exam guide itself is one of the most important resources for exam preparation. AWS publishes an exam guide for every certification, outlining the domains, weightings, and topics covered. For the Certified Cloud Practitioner exam, the guide specifies the 4 main domains: cloud concepts, security and compliance, technology, and billing and pricing. Reviewing this guide ensures you study the right topics and don't waste time on areas outside the exam's scope. For exam preparation, always start with the official exam guide. Blogs and technical posts are another way AWS shares information. The official AWS blog regularly features announcements about new services, tutorials, and use cases. Technical posts dive deeper into how to solve specific challenges with AWS services. For example, a blog post might explain how to use CloudFormation to deploy an application, or how to secure an S3 bucket. While blogs are not required for the exam, they keep you updated on the latest developments, which is important since AWS evolves rapidly. AWS re:Invent is the company's largest annual conference, and it is also a huge resource. At re:Invent, AWS announces new services, offers technical sessions, and shares customer success stories. Many of these sessions are recorded and made available for free online. For exam preparation, re:Invent resources can give you context about why certain services are important, even if the exam focuses only on fundamentals. In practice, re:Invent content helps professionals stay at the cutting edge of cloud technology. The AWS Training and Certification Portal is another key resource. It offers official courses, learning paths, and exam readiness sessions. Many of the introductory courses are free and available digitally, making them perfect for cloud practitioner candidates. The portal also provides practice exams and exam readiness webinars, which give you a sense of the test format. For the exam, using this portal ensures you are preparing with accurate, up-to-date material directly from AWS. Free digital training is one of the most accessible resources AWS provides. These short online courses introduce topics such as cloud fundamentals, security basics, or core AWS services. They are self-paced and designed for beginners, making them an excellent way to build confidence. For example, a free course on S3 might cover how buckets work, how to store files, and how to set permissions. For exam preparation, free digital training is an easy way to reinforce your understanding without additional cost. Hands-on labs are another powerful learning tool. These labs allow you to practice using AWS services in a guided environment without needing your own AWS account. You might follow instructions to create an EC2 instance, configure IAM roles, or set up an S3 bucket. This hands-on practice reinforces theoretical knowledge by letting you try it yourself. For the exam, while hands-on practice is not strictly required, it makes concepts stick more effectively and helps you recall details under test conditions. The AWS Partner Network, or APN, provides additional resources, especially for businesses working with AWS partners. Partners have access to specialized training, best practices, and customer engagement tools. While APN resources are less exam-focused, they demonstrate AWS's commitment to enabling a broader ecosystem. On the exam, you may encounter references to the AWS Partner Network as part of the support ecosystem that helps organizations adopt and expand AWS usage successfully. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. One of the most important reasons to become familiar with AWS resources is that the cloud is constantly evolving. Services are updated frequently, new features are released, and best practices change over time. By keeping current with documentation, blogs, and training, professionals ensure they are always applying the latest recommendations. For exam purposes, this is equally valuable. Even though the Cloud Practitioner exam focuses on fundamentals, AWS often refreshes exam objectives to reflect new offerings. Staying updated through documentation ensures your knowledge remains accurate and relevant. The relevance of documentation to the exam cannot be overstated. Many of the topics tested, such as security best practices, pricing models, or service categories, are drawn directly from AWS's official guides and white papers. By reviewing documentation, you gain not only exam preparation but also real-world insights. For example, reading the Shared Responsibility white paper explains both exam content and operational practice. For the exam, think of documentation as the official answer key. It contains the authoritative information AWS expects candidates to know. Case studies are another resource AWS provides, showing how real organizations use its services. These are valuable because they put concepts into context. Instead of just saying that S3 provides scalable object storage, a case study might describe how a media company uses S3 to deliver millions of videos globally. These stories make abstract services tangible, helping learners connect exam concepts with real-world outcomes. For the exam, case studies may not appear directly, but they build understanding that makes scenario-based questions easier to answer. AWS also publishes guides focused on cost optimization. These explain how to use services like Cost Explorer, budgets, and Trusted Advisor to manage expenses effectively. They also highlight pricing strategies such as reserved instances and savings plans. For example, a guide might recommend moving infrequently accessed data to Glacier to cut costs. For exam purposes, know that AWS provides these resources to help customers manage costs proactively, and that cost optimization is one of the key benefits of using the cloud. Security and compliance white papers are another category of documentation. They cover topics like encryption, identity management, and regulatory frameworks. For example, AWS publishes white papers on how to meet compliance standards such as GDPR or HIPAA using its services. These resources give organizations confidence that AWS meets global requirements while explaining what remains the customer's responsibility. On the exam, security and compliance are major domains, and knowing that white papers exist reinforces AWS's commitment to transparency and shared responsibility. Trusted Advisor documentation helps customers understand how to use this service effectively. Trusted Advisor provides checks across categories like cost, performance, and security, but customers need to know how to interpret and apply the results. Documentation explains what each check means and how to resolve issues. For example, if Trusted Advisor flags unused load balancers, the documentation provides steps for removal. On the exam, you may be asked which tool provides recommendations in these categories, so remember that Trusted Advisor is guided by documented best practices. Service-specific learning paths are another way AWS organizes its training content. These paths provide step-by-step courses tailored to specific roles or areas of focus, such as cloud practitioner, architect, or developer. Each path includes a mix of digital courses, white papers, and hands-on labs. For exam candidates, following the cloud practitioner learning path ensures that all topics in the exam guide are covered. In practice, learning paths provide structured development plans that help professionals grow skills systematically. Leveraging documentation for troubleshooting is one of its most practical uses. For example, if an EC2 instance won't launch, the documentation can guide you through possible causes and fixes. Similarly, if you are unsure about a pricing option, the pricing FAQ will explain it clearly. Documentation ensures that customers don't need to guess. They can always refer to the official guide. For the exam, knowing that AWS documentation is the authoritative source reinforces its role as the most reliable place to confirm details. The value of AWS resources goes far beyond passing the exam. Documentation, white papers, blogs, and training form the foundation of lifelong learning in the cloud. The more AWS evolves, the more important these resources become. For professionals, staying connected to these materials ensures they remain effective, informed, and competitive in their careers. For exam candidates, Using these resources builds confidence that extends well beyond the test. They support not just certification, but real-world problem-solving. That concludes today's episode of the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Prepcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode and visit us online at baremetalcyber.com or cyberauthor.me for more resources, including news, mailing lists, YouTube videos, podcasts, and much more.